Today we'll be learning how to paint the various materials on my Attack on Titan Mega Gargant.
That the entirety of the cosmos is accessible through each and every individual's mind, connecting to the great mind, the great spirit.
Welcome back to the channel, collectors. So in today's video, we'll be finishing up on the rest of the Mega Gargant. We'll be painting up some very different materials such as black leather on the cowl of this Attack on Titan Mega Gargant, as well as some silver which has been tarnished through the battles on this Mega Gargant. On top of that, we'll also cover some weathering and some basic stuff of how we painted the Gatebreaker, and I hope you enjoy today's video. So without further ado, let us begin. Alright, so this is really gonna be a long video with a lot of colors, so let's get all these colors ready and let's get painting. Alright, so first and foremost, we want to start off with an overbrush of the cowl on the Mega Gargant's head. Right now, I'm starting off with a brown from the primer, and I'm brushing on Corvus Black from Games Workshop. So I find Corvus Black nice because it's sort of like when you have off-white, you can have off-black. You don't want it to be pure black so that I can still add some shadows in subsequently. And it's also kind of cooler in temperature. And now I'm using a smaller brush to make sure that every single part is equally overbrushed. At this point of time, I'm not too concerned about being too neat and leaving some textures because I want to make sure that these materials look as textured as possible. Okay, so now adding in a little bit of Vallejo model color pale blue gray. I'm stippling in the initial overbrush. Right now, I want to draw your attention to the shape of the highlight because the head comprises of, yes, a sphere and sort of like a cylinder for the shoulders. Okay, so that's how I'm placing the highlights. Gradually, I'm adding in more and more Vallejo model color pale blue gray for subsequent highlights. What you will observe is I will make the highlights extremely drastic before I tone it down. I find that this is an easier way to work because you can tell where the extreme highlights are, and it's a lot easier to tone down highlights than to build them up with high degree of precision. Right now I'm creating some extreme highlights, so we are almost at pure Vallejo model color pale blue gray. So if you have noticed, we have already painted the muscles on this Mega Gargant. If you would like to learn how to paint the muscles on this Mega Gargant, feel free to go check out the video. Links will be in the description. Okay, right now I'd like to draw your attention to some textures that I've just created on the fringes of this cowl. I've done a more sort of like a longer overbrush to create some scratches and nicks on the leather material right here. Okay, so now I'm sponging on some Vallejo model color German camo beige. So this is sort of like symbolizing and to illustrate the chipping on the aged leather. So I would imagine that this giant doesn't really take care of his clothes, and because of that, the leather dries up and becomes flaked off. Okay, right now I'm using Agrax Earthshade to plot in some of the shadows. I like using Games Workshop shades to do this because they tend to dry pretty evenly and don't leave as much tide marks as shades which I've made on my own. So it saves me a lot of time cleaning up those wretched tide marks. Just gradually building on some layers, and you can see because of the texture that we have created previously, as the shade goes over, creates a very interesting and realistic effect where this is looking pretty sweet right here. Okay, now on to a little bit of detail. We've base coated this thing in Crayon Camel Brown, which is a primer, and now I'm brushing on some Vallejo Watercolor Beige Brown along the edges, then adding in a little bit of pale sand from Vallejo Watercolor to pick out some of the nicks on these wooden boards, then doing an overall wash with Games Workshop Agrax of Shade. Right here I'm going to do a freehand of using Vallejo Watercolor Blue Grey Pale. So when I'm doing this freehand, try to keep the paints as dry as possible so that you can have as much control as possible. So of course, we want to hope that we can make Bretonia great again, and Games Workshop somehow brings back Bretonia. Not really been a huge fan of Games Workshop for too long, but I hear that Bretonia used to be a really great nation and like to see its former greatness right now. Don't worry if you made any mistake, you can always clean that up with the previous colors. And one point of interest is that I like to add little Easter eggs like this on my models because it just makes the entire miniature look a lot more interesting and more relatable. Just reinforcing the lines now and cleaning up all the words. Okay, now we have done that, and I'm gonna work on some of the gravestones right here. So it's just a light overbrush of Vallejo Watercolor Iraqi sand right here, a little bit of stippling to create some texture, and right now I'm still gonna be using a little bit of pale sand mixed in with Iraqi sand. And fundamentally what I'm trying to create different materials to stand out from the Mega Gargant. So now I'm on to Vallejo Watercolor Ivory for the highest highlights, and I'm gonna be going over the stones in a similar fashion. So for this gate breaker flail that is swinging around, start off with a initial overbrush of Vallejo Watercolor Stone Grey. At this point of time, you want to be creating textures just like the cowl. And now I'm moving on to Vallejo Model Color Pale Blue Grey. Okay, now I'm washing the entire thing over with Atonian Camo Shade from Games Workshop. Why I chose Atonian Camo Shade as a wash is because I want to depict that this flail has been kind of neglected. There's some algae growing on it and trying to have some algae effects. So now once the wash has been dried, I'm going overbrush with Vallejo Model Color Ivory and mixed in with Pale Blue Grey. So we have done the flail in the same metallic colors as the Tarnished Silver. If you want to see how we've done this slightly differently, you can go check out the Night Rampager frame video. Okay, so right here you can see that I'm going with an overbrush of Vallejo Model Color Ivory for the highest highlights before I go for a wash. Okay, right now I'm going over with Agrax Earthshade in its entirety so that the wash can go into the crevices and to showcase the form of the miniature as best as possible. Alright, so now we're going to do some Tarnished Silver. This has been already base coated in Vallejo Model Color Wood Grey. And right now I'm doing a large, huge overbrush Vallejo Model Color Blue Grey Pale. Then gradually building up layers. So I'm trying to showcase is that this gauntlet that this Mega Gargant is wearing is a cylinder in shape and it has a huge main highlight going down right the middle to inform the audience that this is cylindrical in nature. I'm not paying attention to the individual details just yet. So now after that, we go over with an overall glaze, and this is thinned down version of Skeleton Horde. I'm focusing the thinned down glaze of Skeleton Horde in several layers, and I'm focusing the layers where the Tarnished Silver is transiting with the wood green. Now I'm using Agrax Earthshade to re-emphasize the volumes and to pick up some little details which might have been covered during the overbrush method. So now I'm using Vallejo watercolor ivory to do some edge highlighting to pick up little details which we might have left off prior. So things that I'm taking note of is these individual, elven designs, scratches, and the main edges along the main highlight line. Okay, now we are in the finishing stages. Right here, I've base coated this this villager in Vallejo watercolor black red, and right now I'm using scale 75 basic flash to create the basic skin tones. Don't forget to miss out the foot that's not covered, and the hand and the other face which is inside his fist. Okay, so moving on, this is scale 75 pale flash for highlights. So I'm focusing on the forehead, the nose, and the fingertips. Okay, so right here, I'm adding in some blood vessels. What I've done is I've mixed Chimera Red with scale 75 basic flash with a little bit of pale flash to create this pinkish highlight. For the nose and the cheeks, I've also placed this color on the individual finger joints, and this gives the villager a little bit more lifelike disposition. Okay, so now just picking up the little individual highlights. And I would like to thank you for watching to the end. Yeah, this model was a huge bunch of fun to paint because it was just a large amount of materials, and I think all the little details allowed this miniature to really showcase the devastating effect of having a Gargant in your realm. Okay, so I hope you had fun painting this, and we'll have a look at the Mega Gargant when it's completed. So this is the Mega Gargant that I've completed, Attack on Titan style. I hope you like him. Check out the review video and see you soon. So now we have finished the Attack on Titan Mega Gargant. What do you think about this? Let me know in the comments below, alright? I hope you enjoyed today's video and I hope you've learned a lot from today's video. If you missed out how I painted the muscles, you should check out how I painted the Attack on Titan muscles video right here. I would like to take this time also to thank my patrons for generously allowing me to do this. It's because of the support of my patrons, I'm able to spend time to paint and record these amazing videos so that we all get to become better miniature painters together. For as low as $1 a month, you get to see my finished work before anyone else in this world, and I hope you go support me and become a patron too. The Patreon exclusive video for this time round would be the Bloody Copper NMM which I've painted on my Chaos Knight Rampager. So this Chaos Knight Rampager is a project which we've finished recently and I hope you go check that out. However, if you can't become a patron, that's okay too. I'd like to appreciate your time and for you to watch all the way to the end. If you want to help the channel further, go like and subscribe to the channel because it tells YouTube that this is relevant content and it allows us to grow even better so that more people get to learn how to become better miniature painters. Alright, so I hope to see you in the next video. See you!